Hello, my friends. Welcome. Today is Wednesday. Whether you are live or whether you're watching this pre-recorded, technically I go live every Wednesday at 12:30 for an episode of Corporate Caffeine. And what we do here on Corporate Caffeine is I do my best to bring you inspiration, stories, ideas, and best practices about how you can maximize both your individual as well as your organizational impact in the business world. And I am a marketing person, a chief marketing officer, and I own a marketing agency. But why I like to go beyond marketing sometimes is because I am a huge believer that you cannot fulfill your potential. You cannot find your biggest possible joy, and you cannot find your calling if you do not allow yourself to fully embody your whole life, not just your personal life, but also your work life. And I really always want to make sure that I'm encouraging you and potentially giving you a kick in the ass to make sure that you are going big in this space and that you are not wasting 8+ hours a day, not giving it your all in order to find yourself and find your potential. So that's what we do. Now, I actually launched the first of I believe it was a 5-part series I committed to called Road to Revenue. And so what I'm doing each week is I'm taking you through a pathway of the things that you need to be doing if you need to be driving revenue right now. So heavy on the marketing side, heavy on the sales side, but also, and we're going to talk a lot about this today, heavy on the prioritization and the problem solving. Because especially when it comes to communication, business communication, whether it's internal or external, whether you're trying to hire people or whether you're trying to attract prospective clients or keep your clients happy, communication is easily spread thin or does not exist because we get so stuck on our own heads that we literally are not thinking through, do people actually even understand what we're saying? And so focusing on communication holistically is absolutely critical. It is constantly wrecking our effectiveness. And so I hope you'll stay hooked in, even if you're not focused on marketing right now, because I believe you will find lots of little gems for thinking through even the personal applications to this. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, one thing that I want you guys to know is, first of all, there is a tool that you can download if you want to. It is our Road to Revenue Kit. This is just one example. I'm actually going to go through 2 today, but these are just a couple of examples of what's in the kit. Totally free. We do not spam you after that. This is just our way at the Marketing Blender, my company, our way of trying to make sure that we are stewarding our knowledge and helping you out. So we are following along in that, and you can grab that. I will put the link in the notes after I stop going live, but it is at themarketingblender.com, and you can just click on our resources page and you'll see it in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, last week, if you need to go back, the number one thing that we were talking about in regards to paving a road to revenue is cutting waste from your business development cycle. And so we went through the whole paradigm of what does that even mean? How can you be wasteful inside of a communication or sales communication partnership or a sales strategy? Well, lots of ways, lots and lots of ways. And for example, one of the ways is talking about something that your prospective customer just doesn't care about at all. So many ways. So that's what we covered last week, is how to cut waste out of your business development cycle. So this week, where do we go if we're trying to pave a road to revenue? Well, I want to talk to you about focus, not just that you need to focus, as you do, but the fact that you need to focus on the right things and how to uncover those. I see this time and time again in marketing. People are like, oh, my competitor's doing a webinar. Oh, I just saw an amazing email going out. Oh, maybe we should be on TikTok because it's the new hottest platform. And it's just these random grabbing at tactics without slowing down and thinking, to what end? Now, of course, everyone is thinking, well, that's a foolish thing to say. To what end is, hey, we need more clients. However, not every single tactic is a direct pathway to a client right now. Some are pathways to clients someday. Some are clients to pathways in a somewhat near future. Some are right now. And some are about your brand and your impact in the world, even beyond revenue. And that is no small thing, because that is where you build significant value and long-term sustainable growth, is by being worthy of being followed, having something to say, standing for something beyond just the invoices that you are issuing and the profit that you are collecting. So there's a lot of different tactics, and they all have different roles. And then on top of that, it's not just about marketing. It's also about all of the other things that might be distracting you from the real impact that you could be having in your business. So where do we even start? Well, one of the things I actually suggest, especially if you believe that there are some internal slowdowns or some business development slowdowns, is tap your team, right? Whether you have a small company or you have a larger company with a trusted leadership team, I challenge you to really find out, where does everyone think the real problems are? And for instance, one way to frame this up is, what are the problems standing in our way of generating short-term revenue, right? So framing that question effectively is really critical. It might be, what are the problems or the biggest hurdles standing in our way to doing our most work or achieving the best results, or to landing more clients? And there's a process that I was taught by too many sources to actually reference all of them. And it's a really simple one for tapping into tribal knowledge. And actually, it's in the worksheet. So you want to clearly define what problem you are trying to solve. And it can be open-ended, right? But in those examples I just gave you, you are literally talking about at the very end, like something specific. To what end? So let me actually tell you an example of what's happening right now. So at the Marketing Blender, my company, we are growing a lot, which is amazing. However, what happens when you're in rapid growth moments is you're pushing all of you, your entire team, every single individual ends up being pushed in their capacity. So you've got to be very thoughtful about, how are those people doing? Because God forbid you want to lose your best people or anybody on your team if you have a high-performing team, which I do, which is amazing. But you want to make sure, how are they doing? And so the question that I pose to them, and that we'll be diving into soon, is, what are the biggest things that are hindering your ability to do your best work, to enjoy your work, and to drive amazing results for the client? So this is very operational focused, right? But it's clarifying for them, this is the outcome that I want us all to be united around. And so what are the things that are slowing that down or preventing that from happening? So you really want to tailor that conversation, and you really want to be thoughtful about how you frame that. You don't just want to be like, what are you frustrated with? Because let me tell you, your team will tell you, and it may or may not be productive, right? So hopefully, if you've got a great culture, a great relationship with your team, you can basically guide that conversation. So there is a worksheet in that Road to Revenue kit that I was talking to you about. But the first thing I wanted to show you, and speaking of that, is a really great quote that we have here. And Einstein was talking, and he said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about the solutions. And I just couldn't agree more. You'll be blown away with how creative, smart, and practical your team is. However, if you don't have a clearly defined problem, you might have solutions to the exact wrong thing. So again, be incredibly thoughtful when you're filling out the one problem that you are going to workshop with your team. And you can do this on your own if you are a solopreneur, or if you are not comfortable opening this up, or if you just want to do some critical thinking on your own, you absolutely can, but it's amazing in a workshop scenario. Then what you want to do is you want to give your team time, and you don't do this out loud. You stop and you say, I want everybody to brainstorm quietly on your own piece of paper all the possible solutions that you can think of to solve this problem. And you literally set a timer, 5 minutes of silence, something like that, where people are allowed to think through their own ideas without the risk of being judged or sounding foolish. And, you need to set the bar that, guys, I'm going to be expecting a minimum of 3 from each one of you guys. So really get as many out as possible, right? So you just give everyone time. And when you're thinking about your own participation in this, don't edit your answers. Just think about all of the different things. You don't even need to know exactly how you might implement a solution, right? Because it might not be the best idea. So you really just need to be naming every possible solution, and that is the only goal. So once that 5 minutes is up, what you're going to do is you're going to go around the room one at a time, not one person saying all of their ideas, literally one person with one idea at a time. And you're going to write it on the whiteboard or on the video screen or whatever. Now, it is absolutely critical to note that when you're doing this, no one gets to say anything negative about what's being put on the board. This part of the workshop is not about validating or arguing ideas. This is about tapping into tribal knowledge and creating a trusting environment where people can see other people's way of thinking and potentially even open up new ideas. So the whole key to this, the only thing you want to do is you want to, one at a time, because there needs to be accountability, being adding up to something on the screen, right? And so if somebody says one that's already up there, you could put a little slash mark, or you could say, okay, that's already been named. What else do you have? And you keep going around the room until everything is on there, right? So then you have a full board of potential ways to solve this problem. And then it's super simple. Everyone simply votes on their favorite 3, on the 3 that they think would be most effective. Now, depending on what environment you're in, you can do this publicly, you can do this anonymously, you can drop it in a hat, you can tally it, it doesn't matter. But basically what we want to see is we want to see from a group perspective, without talking behind the scenes, with all of these options up there, what are the most practical and realistic ones? Now, if you have a tie, let's say 5 or 6 of them are, equally voted on, then that's the time to start thinking through how practical is this? How difficult of a load? You want to make sure that you're being careful not to criticize ideas, because it will shut everybody down very, very quickly. But you want to, challenge everybody to think through and to come up with the most appropriate action items that you can take. And then once you've decided on your 3, you figure out, can we do these 3 at one time? Is it 1 at a time? It's typically 1 at a time. So you prioritize the 3 solutions, you pick the one, and you assign action items. You immediately get into action around problem solving. So that is kind of a broad approach, but this I have seen and heard and learned from so many different teams where this is a really aggressive and exciting way to solve problems, because you're not trying to just say, oh, we can solve everything. And by the way, not every problem that you have is a problem that you must solve right now. At the end of the day, focus is about making a decision to take action on the most important things. And this is an opportunity to name something that is important, potentially not urgent, and to assign actionable tasks to the appropriate people and to get everybody on the same page. And on top of that, it's great for culture. It's great for including, and people buy into what they help build, right? So I love this approach. I'm going to be doing this with my team on a number of different problems so that we can prioritize our problem solving and prioritize our goals, because God knows we're going to get someplace way further than I could do on my own if I allow a united environment and people's best thinking to influence the direction of what we're capable of achieving. And especially together, we always bring more value together than we do individually. So that is the first thing. So get to problem solving. Get to problem solving and make everything actionable. So often people focus on what they don't have instead of what they can do. And here's what I mean from a marketing perspective. We don't have enough leads. We don't have enough qualified leads. We don't have enough visibility. Okay, flip that around and challenge yourself. Is that the number one problem that we need to solve? And then what are the ways that we can go about that? What is the most important problem? So that brings me now that we've talked about how to go about solving problems once you've identified them, let's actually talk about finding where your problem is. So this is definitely on the marketing side of things. And let me show you what I mean. So I was talking earlier about tactics, and people will say maybe a webinar, maybe lead gen, maybe more cold calling, maybe this, maybe hire a new salesperson, maybe better social media, maybe a Google AdWords campaign. There's a million ideas that you can come up with for what to do. But how do you know which ones are going to solve the right problem? Well, the important part is to understand what role do each of those play. And I like to refer to this type of framework or this type of thinking as revenue ratios. Now, many of you will have seen this. Let me share my screen again. Many of you will have seen the graphic that you're going to see on this page. Let me get a little bit closer here. Because it looks like a standard business development funnel, right? So lots of people come into the pipeline or into the business development funnel at the top, and you lose people along the lines. Now, this is actually why I refer to it as ratios, because there is going to be attrition, excuse me, as you go through each one of these. But here's the thing, this is not just about a funnel or a sales pipeline, like how many people do you have moving towards a sale. This is actually how you should be thinking about the marketing tactics and the activities that your sales team is doing in order to attract and then nurture and then close new business. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we look up here at visibility, if you are invisible, you're screwed. Like, nobody can buy from you if they literally do not know that you even exist. So we have visibility. Now, out of visibility, if you are effective, you might make someone curious or interested, right? So you will have gotten their attention, and at some point in time, they will have remembered your name. And so they're going to do a drive-by. Now, that traffic might be past a legitimate store. It is most likely past a website or through your social media or to follow you or to check you out somehow. So there's no real engagement, but you have triggered their curiosity, and so they're checking you out. That is traffic. Then you want to convert interest into inquiry. Now, depending on the complexity of your business model or the complexity of the type of thing that you're selling, sometimes some people come in and they're like, oh, I like what you're saying. This is kind of interesting. And you have to help them and yourself figure out whether or not they are qualified to buy from you. Do you solve the problem that they actually have? Do you provide what they need? Can you actually bring value? Do they have the budget, right? So qualifying. So there might be people that are qualified someday, but not yet. Marketing qualified leads, that just means they are interested. And then sales qualified leads, of course, right? And then your closing ratio. How effective is your team at closing business? Now, standard sales pipeline, standard business development pipeline. So what does that have to do with tactics and problem solving and paving a road to revenue? Well, you guys, you can't, unless you're a very mature business and you have a good, solid team, it's very difficult to focus on all of these at the same time. And then on top of that, if you're optimizing or testing or tweaking any individual element in here, how do you know what's working if you're changing lots of things all at one time? What I want you to think through is what's your biggest problem. If you have a rock star sales team and they are so good at closing deals, and and everybody knows your name, but they're not getting in front of enough people, they're not writing enough proposals, okay, you have a problem somewhere in this converting interest to inquiry portion, right? And so thinking through and then trying to be more definitive about where are you losing people along the way. Most people will say, oh, we definitely have a lead generation problem. However, is your team working all of the leads, or are they qualified enough? Are they working all the leads and it's just about quality of leads? Is your business development process broken where you're losing people, or there's just so many different opportunities? And then visibility and traffic, already talked about this earlier. If people don't know you exist, that's your real problem, not lead generation. It's that you're not even out there at all, right? And the additional thing is you need to be thinking about, does your budget align with what you said? So for instance, if you say that lead generation is your problem, but you're spending a lot of money on your brand or your website, and you're spending a lot of money on your sales team, but you're only spending 1% of your business development budget on lead generation, well, then you've got a problem. And that problem is called alignment, right? And so making sure, so this should be how you look at your problems and how you identify what you need to be addressing. Okay. So I want you to be thinking about what's your real hurdle, not all of it. What's the specific thing that you can solve right now? And then go do that. And then make sure that you've aligned the resources, that you've aligned your team, that you've aligned your messaging, that you are truly focusing the attention and the resources necessary to solve that problem. Do it aggressively and then track the impact that you're having. So I want you to be thinking about that big picture process again in regards to identifying what's your real problem when it comes to marketing or business development. Okay, and so then the final thing in regards to the final couple of things that I want to bring up for you is there's there's two other key areas that you must be focusing on. Again, today's overarching theme is focus, that you must be focusing on if you're trying to pave a road to revenue in the near term. So first of all, I know this is going to be Captain Obvious here, but I don't care because, again, focus on what's absolutely critical. You need to be focusing on deals that are ready to close. Okay, well, that's obvious, right? So what do I mean by that? Number one, make sure your follow-up and your team's follow-up is incredibly diligent and super high value, and that not only does your team think that it's time for this deal to close, but the prospective client agrees with that timeline. If your team has not asked the timeline on which this prospect believes they're going to close or make a decision about this, you don't know how close you actually are to that deal being closed. Accurate projections, because they came from the mouth of your prospect, is what actually matters. So diligent follow-up, high value, in integrity, following the buying process, not trying to drive forward a sales cycle, right? Next, think to yourself or have your team think to themselves, is this problem truly still urgent and relevant to them? Is it something where they're interested, but honestly, in all of the things that they've got, their long to-do list, it's actually kind of down here? If they don't have urgency and prioritization around the solution that you provide, they ain't going to close. Maybe someday, but honestly, they'll probably just decide to not make a decision. So be very, very thoughtful about, is this really the right thing? And get outside of yourself. Walk in their shoes mentally. Think about their point of view and think about what they've really got going on in their desk and ask yourself, is that the problem you would solve right now? And if it is, explain to them why. Right? Do a better job of building the business case based on how it is going to personally impact and improve their situation. Also, another question that I love related to that, my friend Dave Seligson is a massive champion of this, is and also a sales trainer that I love, Tim Berry, he is as well. What is the cost of inaction? What is the cost of inaction? If your prospect does not take action, what are they risking? If it's not much, you might be in trouble. But for many people, the problem that they're solving, especially if it's prioritized and it's urgent, if they don't do anything, the problem's only going to get worse. And have you helped them think through that? Because they are weighing the risk of action against status quo. They need to understand that status quo never stays the same. Oftentimes it gets worse. Life is always changing. So if the status quo is dangerous, that is only going to get aggravated. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better by being an ostrich. So being a guide, this is not high pressure sales, guys. This is literally about sitting in the same point of view alongside of the buyer so that you can best serve them. And the answer might be not yet, right? They might come to terms with, I'm not ready to buy. This isn't priority for me right now. But it is better for you to know that now and then do an effective and respectful follow-up campaign with them over the next 6 months, over the next 12 months, tracking and building a relationship, than just constantly stirring in this little place, you or your team thinking it's going to close and the prospect knowing no way in hell because it's just not important right now. So get into knowledge, run towards the truth, and turn the lights on to a conversation so you can be a partner. Final thing, when you're talking about deals that are ready to close and they are mired in slowness, if you've already gone through all of those things, there's something else going on. There's something that they're not telling you, something that they're nervous about. It might be they're nervous. It might be values alignment. It might be just how they perceive things, right? The best thing to do, and I kind of hinted at this like implicitly through what I was just talking, is take it back up big picture. Big picture. Think about the broad picture of how this problem is harming the organization, harming this individual personally, how a solution will help, why they prioritized it, and even what do they care about, right? Like, how are they making this decision? And when I say how, I don't necessarily mean, are there other people that you better be talking to the decision maker? You better be talking to the person that can say yes. In every organization, there is a lot of people that can say no. There's only a couple that can say yes. You better be talking to them. Sorry, made sure I had to say that. But so assuming you're talking to the decision maker, take it back up. Find out what's really going on in their head, but also in their heart too, right? Like, find out where the nervousness is. And you can even prompt that by saying, other people, other clients I've worked with have been nervous about this, or had to struggle with this, or had concerns about this. Are you struggling with that as well? Oftentimes what I find is our assumptions are wrong. Just a heads up. And they'll probably go, no, but I am concerned about XYZ. And that's really all you wanted to do. You simply wanted to open a door to a human conversation that you may or may not be able to assist them in, but you definitely cannot help them if you do not know what they're thinking and what's really going on, right? And then think on also if there are any things that they really care about, especially when you're trying this big picture. Is there knowledge? Are there things that you take for granted inside of your organization that could be a value add? Something that some sort of service or some sort of way that you pay additional attention to this prospect in their onboarding that can help accelerate their satisfaction in what you're doing, accelerate their results. Think beyond just your structured product offering or service offering, and think, how could I really help them? How could we really help them? And see if those kind of ideas, that kind of brainstorming, those kind of add-ons might not be the thing that greases the wheel, because you're focused on their success, not on yours. And that's why those things work. This is not a gimmick, right? This is not a coupon. This is, how do you really set them up for success? Okay. And then the final thing, because I am about out of time, although I'm going to give myself permission to go just a couple minutes late if I need to. You need to be focused on customer retention. I had an amazing conversation with nationally renowned coach Mike Myro yesterday. You'll be hearing that conversation on the Corporate Caffeine podcast that'll be launched later this month. But he was talking about the fact that you need to be intentional. You need to use the word architect. You need to architect or design your customer experience. And that's not just about how they engage with your product or service. It's all of it. It's all of it. Do you do anything when a client hits an anniversary with your organization? Do you have any triggers that remember them on a personal level? Do you have anything that allows them to give you feedback, both good and bad, and validates their importance to your organization? You can train these things. You can use technology for these things, but none of them happen on accident, you guys. A 2% reduction in client churn is equal on your bottom line to a 10% cost reduction. All you have to do is reduce the amount of customers you lose per year by 2% to massively impact your bottom line. So you should be focused, if you are trying to make sure that you are, really paving a road to revenue in the short near term. Customer satisfaction is absolutely critical. You spent a lot of time, money, energy, and emotion getting these clients into your family, your service family that you're creating. Oh my gosh, just don't lose them. This is so much easier than getting new clients. So make sure you're being deliberate. Never bite the hand that feeds you. Do not let your team complain about clients. Little tip, that'll help, right? And open up that conversation to how can we delight and be the absolute best partner for people. So that is where I wanted to lead you today in regards to what should you be focusing on. I hope this helped. Guys, when you have a revenue problem, or when you are stressed out about revenue, or you're stressed out about growth, or you're just not where you want to be, it feels bad. However, we oftentimes blow up, we magnify the situation because of the emotional darkness, where one or two key changes in the near term with alignment across your team can massively change the trajectory of what's happening. And if done thoughtfully, is building a sustainable staircase to additional improvement and additional revenue growth over time, right? So when you build something, it needs to be something that can be built upon in the next step. So I just really encourage you to care for yourselves and for your business by getting outside of your own head, by allowing people to help you and to nurture the ideas that you have. Heck, if you really need to, go find a consultant that is brilliant at this. And I'll give you an example in my own past. In around year 3, I had too many eggs in one basket, and we had a lot of risk in our business because we were too heavily weighted towards just a few clients. And then in addition, I was constantly at the end of a cash flow run, constantly. And I could not figure out why that was. Well, I didn't have that finance background, right? And I read books and I was studying, but I could not turn the lights on my blind spot. And so I ended up hiring a fractional chief financial officer, and it was a game changer, absolute game changer. What she brought to the table and what I learned changed everything for me, and it changed it very quickly. And so while it was so scary to spend money when I was so nervous about money, it was exactly what I needed to do to build my confidence, to turn the light on the blind spot, and to make those actionable and sustainable changes. And literally ever since then, we have always known what our cash flow was. We have always had the lights on, and we have learned how to grow our profitability and focus on the things that actually matter, what real success is versus what vanity things are. So I wish you guys the best. Abundance is everywhere, you guys. Do not tell yourself a negative narrative that you are not worthy, or that there's no customers out there, or people are just not interested, or no one's buying right now, or the sky is falling. I'm not saying you don't have challenges. I'm just saying you need to reframe challenges as opportunities, because those who do will win now, and they will win in the long term. So I love you. I believe in you guys. Again, I will post the link for our Road to Revenue kit in those. I hope that you will download that and dive in. I really encourage you to send us questions, whether it's on social media, if you want to DM me, if you want to email me, that's in my contact information. You can find it on the website as well, or reach out to my team. We are here to serve you because we believe in prosperity for all. So that is what the business world is supposed to be. You guys have absolutely amazing end to your Wednesday and to your week. Onward and upward.